everybody. Welcome to another edition of Elevating with Marsha. Today, we're talking with Mike Athos, and we're talking about lead generation for your insurance business. Hi, Mike. Welcome.
Hey, Marcia, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good. Well, excited to chat with you. Lead generation is always near and dear to my heart. And so, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this too. Um, when I'm hiring new agents, and I'm constantly hiring new agents at Blue Wave Financial, and we have a huge need. It's very apparent across the country that Americans are underserved and they need more insurance, right? So one of the things that I talk about with agents is who are you going to go sell to, and how do you go sell to them? Because let's face it, if you're in a sales type of environment like insurance is, and if you don't have people to sell to, you're really out of luck. So I look at three different opportunities or three different options with selling, and getting an agency off the ground. But one thing that I brand new agent that I really want to drive home with is sell to your warm market, sell to your friends and family, and bring it up to them. And it can be very indirect. You can approach people from in an indirect fashion and say, hey, Marsha, I know you're probably good with your insurance, but you wouldn't happen to know anyone that needs some extra insurance, would you? And so I'm not directly targeting you to go out and sell directly to you, but it gives you the opportunity to say, yes, I know someone, yes, me, or no, I don't. And all three of those answers are just fine. So I think having an indirect approach to warm market friends and family is a great way to get your business off the ground and start getting those first couple sales.
Mhm.
One of the big things that I see is don't be a secret agent as well. So don't just go get your license and get all these contracts and go through training and not tell anyone. Make sure you're getting it out there and talking about social media. Do some social media posts and just broadcast out that you are an agent that you can help with insurance needs. Um, from there, I've always run my business from a lead perspective, and so I've over the years invested heavily in purchasing leads and calling leads and working leads, and yes, it absolutely works, but it's getting increasingly more expensive, and to be honest, it's getting a lot more challenging too because people aren't answering their phones, and the do not call list is a big factor there, and then above and beyond that, there's all sorts of revisions that are coming out. Like before we're jumping on this podcast, Marsha, I got an email from one of our lead vendors about the TCPA revisions that are coming out, and they're constantly updating it and making it more and more challenging. And as the agent, you have a lot of liability there. So I do think leads work, but one tip that I have is make sure that the leads that you're getting have been scrubbed through those lists, and that you have the right to actually call them and not get yourself in trouble. Um,
Can I just interject on that for a
yeah,
minute, Mike? Because I do want to talk about the purchase of leads. Well, I understand that there is a semblance of success with them. But I will say this much. I find that the procedure, if you will, to obtain those leads, for the lead companies to obtain them, sometimes I'm not quite sure that the consumer, the potential insured, really understands the information that they're filling out. And I think that's a huge problem. So I have spent thousands of dollars purchasing leads only to find out that when I was calling for example, mortgage protection, debt protection, final expense, and life insurance covers all of that, encompasses all of that. But when I've called people before, they've said, I never filled that out, even though I have the sheet with their signature on it and all their, did you
yeah.
take out a mortgage with such and such bank on? Well, yeah. I was like, well, you did. And a lot of times I thought the bank was requiring that information, or I thought that was for something else. And they really don't understand where you're able to convert that. A good agent will be able to identify that, okay, perhaps they didn't understand what they were filling out. However, you are armed with the information that they have a $300,000 mortgage and they're in their 30s. And if they were to pass away, who's going to pay that off? So a good agent's going to be able to navigate that. Somebody new to the industry may not be able to do that. But more importantly, I think that we've really turned a corner with technology And it always amazes me that when I talk to a potential client for my lead generation program, that the idea of building out their own online presence and reverse engineer the entire process to get people to call them is foreign to them. Like I have yet to run into one agent that had a very well constructed website. And we can do another whole podcast on what takes,
Sure.
what makes a good website. 99% of all the websites out there right now are not conducive to potential insured calling you for a life insurance policy or debt protection or debt free for life or any of the reasons people would utilize a life insurance vehicle for those things like mortgage protection, final expense, etc. But it always astounds me that the idea of that has never crossed their mind, or if it has, they either do not have the knowledge how to do it or they don't have the time, and that's kind of where we come in.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I think just the concept of having someone call you you're right. It is a foreign concept to most agents because they're used to pick up the phone and smile and dial and make 200 phone calls a day or 1,000 phone calls a day or whatever their upline manager
You know,
owner.
but not one agent I run into enjoys doing that, to be
Right.
honest. You know,
It's always been the least favorite activity of the business because if you can spend your time actually selling and talking to people, that's a way different scenario than if you're just hammering the phones and making dial after dial after dial, listening to the phone ring. So I think you brought up an interesting point before we jumped on here about brick and mortar presence versus online presence. And I guess tell me a little bit more about that because most of the agents that I bring on don't have that brick and mortar business. They don't have that office space or anything like that. So Marcia, talk to me about what does your lead gen process look like and how can that help the agent that doesn't have that physical office space that might be working at a home, especially in a post-COVID world that we're living in right now.
absolutely. Okay, so when you think of, I do not only life insurance, I do health, I do disability, I do long-term care, I do property and casualty, I do commercial, I do agriculture, farming, equine, I do it all. But I have an actual brick and mortar business where I have a beautiful sign out front, people that drive by. But the one thing that every business needs is an online presence.
Yeah.
It's really kind of mind blowing to me to think that somebody would get into this industry and not understand the importance of having an online presence. That said, if you're new to the industry, or even if you've been an agent for 5, 10, 15 years, we were never taught that. We were taught get your license, um, completely tap your warm market, which I agree with. I agree with doing that. But how many times can you go to a cocktail party and hit on the same person? Do you need life
Right.
insurance? And a lot of people, like, I agree, don't be a secret agent, but don't vomit on them either. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you have the approach that this is what I do and this is what I can offer you, and you're a good agent, people will come to you. I know when we get off this podcast, I have 4 referrals I have to call for health insurance. So if you're a good agent and you're not throwing up on people and you are offering exactly what they need and you fulfill that need, you will get the referrals. But again, it's foreign to me that new agents or even existing agents are not being taught. You absolutely 100% need to build out your online presence. It is the secret weapon that every business, let alone life insurance agents or property and casualty agents, need. You absolutely positively need an online presence. So the big thing everyone does is they go out and they get a free Google or a Wix website.
Yeah.
No, no good, no good. Um, there's a dirty little secret in the web development industry that if somebody can build you a 3 to 5 page WordPress website or a Wix website, that you have an online presence. And I am here to tell you that is not true. Um, if again, I use the analogy, would you like a pre-manufactured home that's been driven, built in a factory, driven 1,000 miles and slapped onto your foundation? Or would you prefer to hire a custom builder to stick build your home? If you don't have the ability to create the appropriate content for that website, your website might as well be out in the middle of the ocean because nobody is ever going to find it. So you have to absolutely up your game by understanding your online presence that is rich with current and relevant content is the key to long-term success, short-term success, but also having the ability to dominate the search engines by constantly dripping that content into Google, Yahoo, Bing, YouTube, all of that. Social media is great too. We highly recommend that. But again, I find that a lot of the phone calls I get for life insurance occur when I can think of one that happened a few years ago. A guy called me and said, "Yeah, I came out the day after Thanksgiving and found my fiance dead on the floor. She was under 50 years old, died of a massive heart attack, hit the floor. She didn't know what hit her."
Wow.
And he was like, "Holy cow." Like they were not married at the time. They had not even entertained thinking that one of them was going to pass away. Let's face it, Mike, none of us are getting this out of this alive.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is.
No,
And
absolutely.
the cost minimum is going to cost you about $5,000 to exit this place. And a lot of people do not have that money set aside. And so life insurance is a really good tool to cover that. So, a lot of times it's an emergency or a situation. They see a GoFundMe and think, no, I don't want to go that route. I don't want my family to have to raise money. And that is ultimately, why you end up getting phone calls and why people are looking for it. And then a well balanced website with the appropriate content for why you would need life insurance is also, what we incorporate into the construction of our website. So anybody who's online looking for, how do I pay my mortgage off in the event that I die, or chronic or critical illness, the living benefits riders on modern day life insurance policies are so important. So it comes down to an agent or any business owner understanding that you can spend a lot of money on Google AdWords, you can spend a lot of money on Facebook ads, or you can buy a lot of leads for your business or for your life insurance business. But the bottom line is, it's getting tougher and tougher, and to make that type of investment work for you.
Well, what I think is really important about what you just said is that the reason that that guy was talking to you about life insurance is because he just had a major life event that happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it scared him, and rightfully so, because that's a huge thing to have to find your fiance had passed away like on the floor. But what I think is interesting about that is, what do people do after that happens? The way that we shop now, and I look at just about anything that I purchase, I'm going to pretty much buy it online. That's just that's the way the world works right now. And so if you go on and you have that presence, and you have someone that goes on and searches for it, that it's very similar to me to like when I first started selling final expense life insurance. And a lot of that was door knocking and or going to people that are turning 65 in that range. But what always struck me whenever I would have someone that would actually fill out a form or fill out what we would consider a lead at that time, if I were to run that appointment, the first question out of my mouth is, who do you know that just died? Or what happened that made you fill this out, basically is the point of that. And they all have some type of a story and some type of a reason why. And so to capture that on an online presence, it makes all the sense in the world. So that's what strikes me about what you're just talking about. Because if you go on and you Google life insurance in whatever location you're in, you're going to want to talk to someone about it so they can figure out and you can get that proper help because not everything is the best. It's not always best to just go through the select quotes out there or the big Lou or whatever. Like I'd much rather talk to a real person
Well,
that
let
can
me talk to,
understand the needs.
yeah, let me talk about that a little bit, Mike, because one of the other flip sides to going online is exactly that. They're going to what they don't realize. They think Select Quote is a life insurance company. They think Big Lou is a life insurance company, and they're not. They're a clearinghouse
Yeah.
for a lead generation company that's going to harvest that lead and then turn around and sell it to multiple agents. And they're going to sell it to lead generation companies, which are then in turn going to be sold to life insurance agents that then have to call that potential insured. So 99% of the time, that potential insured has been absolutely inundated with phone calls, text messages, emails. By the time you get on the phone with them, you're probably going to be called a few expletives, and they're going to hang up on you.
Yeah,
Um,
which is going back to the TCPA guidelines that are being revised. There's a reason why. It's because
yeah,
of stuff like that. And so
yep.
I love the fact that we can just have a great online presence, have the clients just call us directly. We're not dealing with any of that nonsense, and the clients aren't getting frustrated. It's a win-win across the board. It's good for the client, it's good for the agent.
Mhm.
Better quality business
Potential,
going to the carrier.
yeah, the potential insureds are so skeptical that are going to fill out information and that's what the end result is going to be. So for example, on all of my like search results, my photo populates next to the Google listing.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's 4 or 5 down from the top where you see the image thumbnail of me, which I don't love doing that, but hey,
Hey.
I am who I am. But then it will have the listing, and like even with like health insurance, so many times people will say to me, I want to physically see somebody. So the beauty of that is I can Zoom with somebody, I can show them my license, I can show them who I am, and of course I can do that for life and any other type of insurance that I sell.
Sure.
I can physically meet with that person with technology. But more importantly, there's a level of trust that you have already instilled in them that if you're going to put yourself out there like that, and they can pick up the phone and they're like, wow, it's a Saturday morning and she actually answered the phone. They much prefer that. They have done that on their terms. They don't want to just fill out a contact form or call a select quote, if you will, and then wait and see the avalanche of communications that they're going to be inundated with. And most of them, especially if they're older and don't understand technology, they are just beside themselves that they don't know how to stop the barrage of
Yeah.
calls, and it's really, it's not good, especially when you're talking final expense. There's a certain sector that they start to realize that, hey, I've got more yesterdays than I do tomorrow, and I have not saved for my final expense um, bill, if you will. And they want to have some security, that they know that they're going to be able to leave a set amount of money aside to cover that final expense, or someone who's bought a mortgage and they want to make sure that they have mortgage protection, or they understand how a well structured max funded index universal life policy can double as a tax free income vehicle for them later. So, and a lot of that is what we provide for, not only for insurance agents, we do it for a lot of businesses. We believe in a solid online presence is the vehicle to drive traffic over to you. But more importantly, if people are calling you or filling out your contact form on your website because they see your picture, they see your address, they see where you're located, there's a level of trust, and that lead is going to convert much better because they're already ready to buy. And I find that with my own business when I get a call, hey, I googled you, I googled auto insurance and I found you and I wanted to give you a call. It's probably because there's a degree of trust. They saw my picture, they went to my website, they saw what I offered, they know I'm a real person, they know they're not going to get sent to some 15 prompt phone call center that after 15 prompts, they're going to finally get someone on the phone. So frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Anything else that we can talk about?
I think that that's great for today. Love the idea of clients calling you, and that's what the search engine optimization does, and the lead gen does. So I think the more agents can get on board with having your phone ring as opposed to them calling out, the better. So I absolutely love that.
What a smart way to run your business too.
Right.
Really. I mean, I find me one agent that loves to smile and dial for 2 hours every night and drop $1,000 a week on lead generation. And I will show you someone who's probably not in the business. So,
Yeah. Yep.
all right. All right, Mike.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in for another edition of Elevating with Marsha. I'm your host, Marsha Hawkins. Tune in again, where we'll be talking about all things business, lifestyle, and of course, sports.